Whenever somebody like Colin Kaepernick takes a knee in this country, everybody talks about, oh, that's so unpatriotic. But a guy can say he wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election and nobody cares. Like even me bringing it up now, you brought it back to Kamala and Joe Rogan. Anderson?
Yeah.
Who gives a damn?
Well, I mean, I think you give damn who's elected president, and
yeah,
I'm
especially
asking
if that president is a fascist that's talking about putting people in camps.
One of the things that we have seen with some of these major news networks, especially like CNN, is they're literally not warning people about Trump's fascism. They're not. And they know it. Just run down some of the things that Donald Trump has talked about. First off, he and J.D. Vance and everybody in his orbit right now is an election denier. They're all claiming unequivocally, including the people running the Republican Party, which is his daughter-in-law, denying the election results. So now all of them are basically, if Trump doesn't win, it was rigged and that means people cheated. And that's their only determining factor. It's not about having evidence of cheating. It's not about having evidence of impropriety. It's simply if Trump doesn't win, that is the proof that there's cheating. So they're way out on the election denialism. He's talked about firing the special counsel, Jack Smith, the minute he gets elected. He has talked about using the military on U.S. citizens to quell protests and to go after people that he disagrees with. He has openly spoken about pulling people's FCC licenses. He wants to take away the independence of the FCC and make it so the president is in charge of the FCC. Oh, I don't like what CBS did on that interview. We're going to pull their broadcast license. I mean, he's talking crazy shit. His own chief of staff has said, dude, this guy's a fascist. This guy talks about admiring Hitler. Don't let him in. And that's a guy who's not a Democratic plant. I mean, we're talking across the board warnings about this guy, deep warnings about him. And now, here's what Charlemagne had to say.
Apparently Trump's is going to tape a thing with Joe Rogan. Do you think she should do that?
I think that she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. And I think that Americans need to keep looking at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, because I don't know why we're even thinking about electing somebody who's talking about putting people in camps. I don't know why why we want to elect somebody who's talking about mass deportation. I don't know why we're having this conversation about somebody who wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. Aren't we supposed to be a patriotic country? Whenever somebody like Colin Kaepernick takes a knee in this country, everybody talks about, oh, that's so unpatriotic. But a guy can say he wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election and nobody cares. Like even me bringing it up now, you brought it back to Kamala and Joe Rogan. Anderson?
Yeah.
Who gives a damn?
Well, I mean, I think you give damn who's elected president, and
yeah,
I'm
especially
asking
if that president is a fascist. That's talking about putting people in camps. That's talking about once again terminating the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. That's talking about jailing his political opponents.
Like, look at how glib Anderson Cooper is about this thing, though. He's up there like, it's like not even hitting on him. Because, of course, if they round up people in camps or whatever, or they reinstitute slavery, it's not going to affect Anderson Cooper. Donald Trump's out there talking about 1798 and all this crazy ass shit. But Anderson Cooper's like, oh, he's a fascist? Whoa, what do you mean? He's so glib about it, dude. He is.
The results of an election that's talking about, jailing his political opponents. Yeah. Like, that rhetoric doesn't scare people?
Well, we talked about this every single, this is what,
I don't think
I've been talking about this every night.
I don't think y'all have enough conversations about it. I feel like I heard more on this network about is Kamala Harris black than I do about Donald Trump being a fascist. Well, am I wrong, Angela?
Honestly, that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Ooh, I like that.
I'm not. Look, I'm a huge fan of yours. Okay. But to say that we're sitting around discussing is Kamala Harris black, like
I've seen that. I've seen those roundtable discussions a lot. Now that's bullshit, Anderson. For you to say that y'all don't have those conversations.
I've never asked somebody is.
I'm not saying you. I said the network.
He said the network.
I don't think anyone I don't think any anchor on this network has been going around saying, "Is she black?"
Y'all never had
we have had. Look, I'm sure we have had. Nutty.
Dude, CNN is getting pretty weird. Donald Trump will say Kamala Harris turned black. And then what will CNN do? They will go around asking everybody for comments on that, including Kamala Harris. But Donald Trump goes out and says crazy fascist shit. And CNN should literally Every single day, they should be making video upon video upon video about the threat of Donald Trump's fascism. It's a clear and present danger. Him saying Kamala turned black, that has no bearing on anything. It has no bearing on the outcome of the election. It has no bearing on anything. But they'll have 100 interviews with people to get a reaction. But they don't have 100 interviews of like, God damn, dude, this guy's a fucking fascist.
Okay. But to say that we're sitting around discussing is Kamala Harris black, like
I've seen that. I've seen those
that's
roundtable
definitely
discussions
on.
a lot. Now that's
True.
bullshit, Anderson. For you to say that y'all don't have those conversations.
I've never asked somebody is.
I'm not saying
Kamala
you.
Harris
I said
Not
the
you.
network.
He said the network. He
I
did
don't
say
think
the
anyone
network.
I don't think any anchor on this network has been going around saying, is she black?
Y'all have never had a.
We have had. Look, I'm sure we have had, nutty people or people who have strongly
Nutty
held
people.
beliefs who I may disagree with, who somewhere on some panel have said something, but I will just
But
speak up for what I do on the show. I do believe it's important to get people different viewpoints as long as they're willing to have a legitimate conversation. What I don't like.
That comment right there. I believe it's important to, have people of different viewpoints. But here's the problem is when you have a viewpoint that is consistently lying. Like, for example, they have Scott Jennings on here every day on CNN. And what does he do? He tries to sane wash Trump's admiration for Hitler or his admiration for dictators. He tries to sane wash Trump's, and like what they're saying though is, we got to have room for these people with different opinions. But then it's not even about having a different opinion about, I think we should be allocating resources here or there. They have people on here that say insane, unfounded, bizarre, outlandish shit. It's like the flat earthers, the political version of flat earthers that they have on consistently to try and defend Donald Trump's insanity and try and tone it down. And that's not about having a different opinion. That's about doing what they can to make this a horse race and to legitimize somebody who is not legitimate. Donald Trump is not a legitimate political candidate. He's a racist. He's got felony charges. He's got sexual abuse convictions. The guy is so toxic. He pulls rhetoric straight out of Hitler's playbook. He's talking about mass deportations and concentration camps for illegal immigrants. He's talking about unearthing some law from when America had slavery back in 1798. And he's trying to like bring that law up as a means to imprison a whole bunch of people outside of the current laws. That's fucking crazy. That's insane. Everybody in America should be fighting against this guy. That's so toxic, but we're not, because people like this are trying to act like he's not really that dangerous. Repeatedly. They're repeatedly going to the hilt, pretending like he's not really that dangerous. But he is that fucking dangerous. His own chief of staff, a decorated general with 45 years in the U.S. military, who has served under every president in that time, has come forward and said, dude, this guy is a fascist. He's dangerous. We did all we could to rein him in, and now he's fired us all and surrounded by people that will let him overturn the Constitution. America, don't fuck up and do this. And these guys are like not treating that with the seriousness it deserves. They're being glib about it, and they're being like rating seeking about it. When this man is a national security threat. He stole classified documents and moved them around, and we don't know what he did with them. We don't know if he sold them to Saudi Arabia or Iran or whatever. We don't know what the he's up to, but we know he's toxic, and we know he's a convicted criminal. Like, wake the up, America. You know what I'm saying? This is so ridiculous.
Is she black?
Y'all have never had a.
We
have had. Look, I'm sure we have had, nutty people or people who have strongly held beliefs who I may disagree with, who somewhere on some panel have said something. But I will just speak up for what I do on the show. I do believe it's important to get people different viewpoints as long as they're willing to have a legitimate conversation. What I don't like are surrogates who come out and just spout talking points that they don't even believe, and those are people I tried to eliminate from having ever on the air again.
I think no network has honest conversations about Donald Trump. Nobody's had honest conversations about Donald Trump since 2016. I saw last night they were talking about, the double standard that exists between Donald Trump and the vice president, but it's always a double standard.
Dude, last night's town hall was a perfect example. They were drilling her, grilling her, holding her feet to the fire, but nobody does that with Donald Trump. Nobody does. They don't. In fact, their headlines try to make him appear less fucking crazy. Good for you, Charlemagne. I fucking really like this guy, dude.
They were talking about, the double standard that exists between Donald Trump and the vice president, but it's always a double standard with Trump, whether it's with Hillary, whether it's, against Biden, now with Kamala. We talk about him being a threat to democracy, but we don't treat him like one.
I don't know what you've been watching, but I don't know of any Trump supporters out there or people who like him who are tuning in to me every night to try to get, to be validated in their opinions. I don't know. I don't know. I disagree.
I don't think it's about validating. What do you mean, validating the Trump?
Well, you're saying that we're not, that I guess you're saying I'm not discussing all the things he is saying and doing and pointing it out.
See, that's one of the things that we need to pay attention to, because one of the refrains we've been hearing in this election season is people pointing out the obvious of, hey, Donald Trump is a fascist. His own chief of staff, his own higher ups in his administration are saying this guy's dangerous, narcissist, fascist. He's going to up the country in serious ways. But people have said, well, if he's a fascist, why didn't he do it the first time? But he did. One of the things Donald Trump did the first time was the acting secretary. When Donald Trump wanted Homeland Security to be run by Chad Wolf, he knew that Chad Wolf would never get confirmed by the Senate. So what did Donald Trump do? He didn't put a person before the Senate for confirmation for Homeland Security. He left the secretary job open. Senate had no one to confirm. Then he put Chad Wolf into a lower job and then made him the acting secretary. So he was able to get his guy at the head of Homeland Security without the Senate's approval. And he did that in multiple government agencies. That was one way that he shirked the process. He also did an executive order for Schedule F. Government employees are unionized, so you can't fire them, but he created Schedule F, which would have allowed him to fire thousands of government employees and then put in his guys, break the union, the government union. He did that, but he lost the election to Joe Biden, and so that got rescinded. There were other things he did, like refusing to defend things. His Department of Justice would not defend certain civil rights abuses, which was another authoritarian thing. Like normally, they have to defend the law. But basically what he did was his Bureau of Labor and his administration would selectively not defend certain laws. And that was another way they did of overriding the law, was by picking and choosing what the bureaus would actually regulate and what they wouldn't. There were a lot of instances he wanted to send in the National Guard or the military to end protests. Also can't happen. Now, in all of these instances, there were people in his administration, the John Kellys, that were trying to, Bolton, whatever, Bill Barr, that were sort of like preventing him from going over the guardrail and just, down the hill like a maniacal idiot. But this time around, those people are all talking about how Trump is a dangerous fascist. They're sounding the alarm saying, don't fucking do this shit. But everybody in his inner circle, the J.D. Vances, the Stephen Miller, his kids, they would burn the Constitution in order to protect Donald Trump. Like, yeah, man, this is a serious fucking sounding of the alarm where major people in government are like, God damn, dude, this could be it. And like, we need to wake up.